A cold night in the early days of a spring month. A narrow passage behind a small neighborhood bar. A man lies still on the ground, only steps away from the warm light of his own home. No signs of struggle, no money taken, just silence and fear. But the shock came later, when investigators realized the prime lead did not point toward a stranger, but someone far closer. Who would dare turn a family's doorway into a crime scene? And why? Welcome to True Crime Vault. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. As we reopened the case of the Martin tragedy, the early morning hours had barely broken when the proprietor of a local neighborhood tavern was assassinated. Just steps from his door, 40-year-old Lee Martin was discovered lifeless in the narrow, shadowed passage connecting his modest bar and the family home he shared with his wife and daughter. The crime scene immediately baffled investigators. This was not a chaotic robbery gone awry. It was an execution. Lee's thick leather wallet, heavy with the night's cash receipts, lay conspicuously untouched beside his body, suggesting a calculated murder rather than simple greed. The crucial absence of spent shell casings strongly implied the killer had favored a revolver, a weapon preferred by those aiming to leave behind minimal forensic signatures. With concrete leads non-existent, the investigating team, led by seasoned Detective Miller, naturally zeroed in on the victim's closest associate, his 29-year-old wife, Jacqueline Martin. She was brought in for questioning, the detectives hoping she could offer some critical insight into any simmering grudges or potential threats Lee might have amassed. For us to truly understand who might be responsible for this tragedy, I need to know the intimate details of your lives, yours, your husband's, your routine, who you associate with, and the environment you moved in. Is that clear? You're supposed to take our daughter to the movies today. Today you promised we'd go see Shrek. Daddy was taking us on a date. I understand. Now, focusing on the last few weeks, did Lee have any serious altercations with anyone? No, he always has problems with people. Okay, but anyone specific who would harbor enough malice to come back and murder him? No. People say things all the time. Who exactly says that all the time? Kids who try to sneak in without adequate ID because they're underage, or someone completely hammered who tries to buy a beer at 2:30 in the morning. Patrons who get cut off. In the last week or so, was there anyone he had a significant fight with or a disagreement that would prompt them to come back and do this? I got in a fight 2 weeks ago. Some guy in the bar went after the barmaid. Some guy. Do you know who it was? Was he white? Black? It was white. White guy, but you don't know who it was. I don't think he was a regular or anything. Okay. How about last night? Can you recount where you were? I was in bed. Lee owned a nondescript low-key neighborhood bar situated literally adjacent to the small house he shared with Jacqueline and their young child. Jacqueline maintained that Lee followed a strict nightly ritual. He set his alarm for 1:20 a.m. precisely, went next door to lock up the bar, and returned directly to bed. On the night of the murder, he had just concluded his closing duties and was making that customary short walk across the yard back to his marital bed. I saw the flashing light on the neighbor's house through my bathroom window. I tried calling him repeatedly. Did you go downstairs after you got dressed? Yes. Okay. And that's when you discovered him? Yes. So, to reiterate what we discussed, aside from the usual friction that comes with running a bar, he had no major ongoing issues, right? No recent physical fights or confrontations? No. Did he owe anyone a significant amount of money? No. We only have the mortgage. When I say owing people money, I mean loans from friends, private debts, gambling debts. And did he use any illicit drugs? Drugs? No, absolutely not. He's diabetic and manages high blood pressure. And what about you, Jacqueline? Do you use any kind of substances? Crack, cocaine, anything like that? Is there any specific reason why people in Lee's circle might tell us you have a drug problem? I did. What about recently? Have you had a relapse? I need absolute transparency here. No, I haven't even had a drink in 2 weeks. Okay, let's be honest. When was the last time you used drugs? Yesterday, 2 days ago. Oh God, no. How did you use it? Did you ingest coke? I did. Yes. Okay. How was it administered? Snorted. Injected. I smoked it and snorted it. The detectives abruptly shifted the line of inquiry toward financial matters. Did Lee ever mention that someone had stolen his bank card? Do you know who took it? We had been trying to figure that out for the last couple of days. Where did he believe the card was stolen from? He thought he dropped it at Home Depot. Home Depot, can you tell us the PIN number for that card? It's a 0, a 1, a 2, and a 4. Approximately a week prior to his murder, Lee's debit card had vanished without explanation. Following his death, investigators reviewed his banking records and discovered a rapid series of withdrawals, totaling exactly $1,000 via an ATM. The surveillance footage captured a white male successfully using the debit card and the correct PIN to drain the funds. Critically, the man's face was largely obscured by the shadow of a low baseball cap, providing police with no clear identification. You didn't take the card, did you? You didn't give the card to anyone? No. We'd been going to Home Depot often because we were doing a lot of construction work. We always used the card there. So, aside from regular customers and the one guy he had a brief fight with, he wasn't having serious problems with anyone else. Somebody stole his bank card, and you have absolutely no idea who it was. No, not this my fault. Not at all. It's my baby. Did you actively do something to make this your fault? It's my fault for not staying. Not staying. Not staying where? What are you referring to? This is God punishing me. God is punishing you. Do you believe this killing is somehow tied to your actions? I think that God is punishing me. Why? God. Jacqueline collapsed into tears, revealing that she and Lee had temporarily separated the previous fall. During that separation, she had moved in with a known drug dealer and had become deeply dependent on cocaine. She suggested, tearfully, that her current anguish and Lee's violent demise were divine retribution for the sin of abandoning her husband. Perhaps someone just came out there intending only to rough him up. Is that a possibility? Would you know anything about that? No, I don't think anyone could. He's a very large man. Okay, what am I supposed to tell my daughter? Unfortunately, you just have to tell her the truth. He promised me that he would take her to the movie. I'm deeply sorry for your profound loss. He never broke a promise to her, never again. Jacqueline was permitted to leave the precinct, but the detectives exchanged meaningful glances. Her performance had only heightened their already deep suspicion. This would certainly not be the final interview. Tell me why. Stop talking. I want to know the truth. You're talking to your brother while he's waiting outside. What were you planning to kill your husband? What was he asking you? Do not sit here and lie to me. The investigation into the execution-style killing was rapidly stalling until police headquarters received a stunning, unsolicited visit. A nervous man claimed he possessed the definitive key to identifying Lee Martin's killer. The informant revealed that his roommate, 26-year-old Robert Gardner, had entertained two friends, Brandon Rock and Storm Davison, the very night Lee was murdered. The informant described the unnerving sight of the three young men preparing for an outing. They were cloaked entirely in black. Heavy black paint smeared across their faces, and hooded sweatshirts pulled tight over their heads, a chilling, almost paramilitary uniform. At one point, Robert had casually displayed a handgun to the group. The trio departed. Together, around 1 a.m. only Robert returned, alone. At 3 a.m., when detectives asked why, he immediately suspected these three men in connection with Lee's death. The informant provided the final, damning piece of context. Robert harbored intense, bitter hatred for Lee Martin. The subsequent background check yielded explosive information. Robert Gardner was, in fact, Jacqueline Martin's younger brother. With this volatile intelligence, police swiftly located and apprehended both Brandon and Storm, immediately bringing them in for separate interviews. They started with Storm Davis, who appeared visibly shaken and emotionally fragile. Do you have an understanding of why you are currently here? Yes, sir. All right. Let me explain the specifics of why we've detained you. Is that acceptable? Yes, sir. We will simply sit here and talk. Can you outline what you did and where you were last Friday night? Nothing much. I was hanging out with my friends. Can you tell me who you were with? The other guy you have here, and Tyler, and Bubba. Okay. We refer to him as Brandon, correct? Ham. And what exactly did the three of you do? Nothing, really. Just driving around aimlessly. Where did you guys stop or hang out? We were at someone's house. But I honestly don't remember where. But I believe we spent most of the night just driving around. Okay. And what about Saturday, after you finished work? Do you recall? We went to Benji's drive-in and saw Iron Man 2. Okay. I don't believe that was Saturday night. Yep, it was Saturday night. Alright. How was Iron Man 2? It was actually really good. I mean, I guess it could have been much better, but it definitely exceeded my expectations. I'm pretty sure they're going to make an Avengers movie based on how that ending played out. Storm initially maintained the narrative that on the night Lee was murdered, he had simply driven around pointlessly with Brandon and Robert. Before going home at 1 a.m., he claimed he slept until noon the next day, worked a shift at Taco Bell from 1 o'clock to 9 p.m., and then went straight to the movies. When detectives pressed Storm specifically on details of their driving route, his facade began to crumble, and he admitted Robert had claimed he needed to meet someone. He had told us he was going to meet someone urgently. Okay? And what was the nature of that meeting? He didn't tell us. He just instructed us to drop him off. And it was. And what transpired immediately after that? He got out. We suddenly heard gunshots, and he sprinted back, frantically jumping into the car. He told us, screaming, to leave immediately. Okay. And who was present in the vehicle with you? Huh? Who was with you when this happened? He ran in and robbed, okay? Did he definitely jump back in the car? He did jump back in the car. Was he carrying a weapon? He had a gun. That must have happened. That was a gun. I now truly believe that was a gun. I was wondering why I couldn't remember what I did on Friday. I know, because it wasn't a pleasant night, was it? You wanted desperately to forget it. Correct. Let's stop focusing on the dates. Let's back up to Friday night and go over it again. Did you go to the movies that night? MHM. Okay. Who did you go to the movies with? Brandon and Bubba. Everything else I told you was factually true. I just had the specific days entirely mixed up. Storm then haltingly confessed to the actual, horrifying sequence of events. And when you guys pulled over and parked, what did Robert do? He got out, and I guess there he said there was some kind of break or opening in the fence, and he went through that space. Okay. Did anyone else exit the vehicle? I did. You went with him? I did, yes. And it was like a small footbridge. I don't know what it was exactly. Maybe some concrete. I don't recall a stream there, but okay. Where did you two proceed from that location? He walked away, and he was crouching down. He initially claimed he was going to confront his sister or something. He told me this guy was severely beating his sister, and he was just going to physically assault him. Okay. And he requested my help. Okay. And like I said, I was completely unaware that he was carrying a gun at all until, I suppose, you gentlemen already know what happened next. Oh, tell me exactly what unfolded. We were just sitting there waiting, and pretty much the entire time I was asking him, what do you mean? What are we doing here, man? How do you even know he's beating up your sister and stuff? Because I don't really like your sister. I've only met her 3 times, but from what I hear, she was not a very good person. I guess I don't want to speak ill of her. Understand? Right now is precisely the time to speak ill of her, if it's relevant. Okay, but mainly, he was just insisting on this story, and I was trying to tell him, look, I want no part of this. And then, when the guy came out, he was walking along, and I guess he saw us out of the corner of his eye, and he looked back. Rob suddenly jumped up and yelled, "You mean money?" And the guy looked genuinely terrified, and he said, I don't have any money. That's when Rob immediately pulled the gun out, and he commanded, "Give me all your money." The guy pulled his wallet out, and then handed him the cash, and bang, bang. That's pretty much exactly what happened. I didn't actually see anything after that, because as soon as I witnessed and heard the first shot, we both just bolted and started running. Okay, did you hear many gunshots? I did. I counted 5 in my head. But you were running while counting. I was running. Yes, I was terrified by what happened. Was Robert on the phone with his sister during this time? He called her once. Well, she knew what was going on, I guess. I really don't want to say anything more because I wasn't directly privy to what they were saying. He kept walking away from me and then coming back. Was he offering to pay you guys to assist him? That's what he had proposed. He said we would each receive about $300 that night. But then I never saw any money, and I certainly didn't ask for any money at that point. You were clearly scared. Yeah, I was. I'm still scared now. Do you believe that his sister knew exactly what was about to happen? I guess in my heart of hearts, I would hope she didn't. But yes, I think she did. And explain to me why you hold that belief. Because, like I mentioned, I could hear him speaking on the phone. And I distinctly kept hearing him say, "I love you." Did you have any discussions with Robert after this whole incident occurred? After the news was all over the television? Did you talk to each other about what you should tell the police? No. Keep your mouth shut. He pretty much explicitly told me to keep my mouth completely shut. This was a terrible tragedy. I know. Yeah, honestly, I never anticipated that level of violence would happen at all. I don't know if you believe me, but well, I suppose the difficult reality is that this happened 3 days ago. MHM. It's been highly publicized on the television news. A lot of people are hurting. I mean, they genuinely loved this man. I saw that. I had no idea. And yet you never picked up the phone to say. I didn't know what would happen. That's pretty much all I can offer, is that I was petrified, and I didn't understand the severe implications of what had just occurred. Storm was subsequently placed under arrest and charged with murder. Meanwhile, Brandon Rock waited anxiously in an adjacent room for his own turn, under the intense scrutiny of the investigators. We are going to get right to the core of the issue with you, Brandon. We just finished speaking with Storm at the end of the hall about the events of last Friday night. That's why you are here. It involves Robert, his sister, her husband, and everything else surrounding it. Okay. I am not going to waste your time or mine. I would greatly appreciate it if you were just completely honest, and let's put an end to this. It's been an agonizing week for too many people. You understand what I mean? Yeah, so, just be truthful. Storm was, and he told us all about your car and the entire scenario. He is not trying to sell you out. You need to know that. I can tell you truthfully, right now, I know virtually everything that happened, and that is why you are sitting here tonight. Fair enough. Ma'am, we're at Benji's drive-in. Okay, I received a call from Rob. He said, if I call you back, can you come pick me up within maybe 15 minutes or so? I said, sure, whatever. Yeah, I agreed. So, he calls me just slightly before the movie is finished, and I told him, yeah, I'll be there, but I need to finish watching the movie first, or whatever. I'm going to stay until after the credits, and then leave. And Miss Storm was with you at this point. Storm was right. Okay. I pull up at Rob's house. He's all agitated and excited, and he's totally dressed in black, and he has this crap smeared over his face. I don't know, black makeup or paint. He told Stowell first. He didn't immediately jump in the car. He told Storm he needed to put on this black stuff, too. Did he provide a reason why? No, I don't believe I didn't hear him tell him why. I asked. Yeah, what exactly are we doing? He just said, don't worry about it, or something like that. Just drive. Or, drive wherever I tell you. Something demanding like that. I argued. I'm going to drive where I want. He insisted. No. Yeah, you are going to drive precisely wherever I say. Like whatever. Yes. So, I drive down toward the bar area or whatever. We pull down this one specific street. It's a dead end. It's really small. Okay. And there are some trees there. They mentioned there's like a little opening or entryway in there, and you can cut through to the other side of the street. Okay. We both hopped out. I mean, they both got out, and I waited there for maybe 20 minutes, and completely out of the blue, I heard like 8 gunshots. And Storm, I heard footsteps rapidly coming through the opening, and it was Storm. He screamed, yo, he just shot this nigger in the face. Yo, we need to get out of here. He kept yelling, he just shot him. Yo, he killed him. He took his money, and he killed him. I was like, yo, are you serious? He said, yeah. And Rob comes scrambling into the car. He's laughing and shit. I yelled, yo, what the hell is wrong with you? I started driving immediately. Got back to his house. That was it. Yeah. He showed me the clip, and the bullets still loaded inside of it. Rob had said something. He had mentioned this guy before, and he said something about him beating up my sister or something like that. So I honestly thought he was going to go over there and either attempt to rob him or severely beat him up or something. Okay. Or he said Rob would give each of you guys like $200 to $300 each for helping him out. For driving them down there or whatever. Why didn't you call us? Why didn't I call the police? Because I was terrified. And I was convinced I might go to jail for being labeled an accomplice, or something like that. I'm quite certain that's why Storm stayed quiet in the car, too. Am I going to jail tonight? Yes. Am I going to be given a bail amount? You will likely be held without bail. You are going to be formally charged with murder tonight. Brandon was also formally charged with murder. Before being transported to the detention center, Brandon was granted one deeply emotional phone call to his mother, during which he tearfully recounted the catastrophic mistake he had made. What is wrong, sweetie? I'm in jail. Mom, where are you? Right now, I'm at, the place that used to be the Blue Cross and Blue Shield building. But after I get processed, they'll transport me down to North Point. Yes. For what? What happened with Daddy's friend this weekend? Yeah, they're charging me with that murder. How? Because Rob did it, I guess. I don't know. Rob did it. Yeah. Where were you, Brian? In the car. I swear I didn't know he was going to shoot him. So, you remained in the car, unhung. I didn't even know it was Daddy's friend, or who it was. He just kept claiming that this guy was beating his sister, or whatever, because he was dating his sister. I don't know. Alright. I love you, son. I love you too. The police were operating on the strong, immediate conviction that Jacqueline was not merely a grieving widow, but the calculated orchestrator of the entire assassination plot. However, before confronting her again, they needed to locate and successfully apprehend Robert Gardner. Once in custody, Robert offered a self-serving narrative, claiming his sole objective was to aggressively intimidate Lee, so that Lee would cease abusing his sister. In Robert's version of events, it was Storm who unexpectedly brandished the weapon and fired the fatal shots, asserting vehemently that he, Robert, had absolutely no foreknowledge or intent to kill. Robert adamantly refused to implicate his sister, but he was quickly arrested and charged with murder, based on the no consistent testimonies of his two accomplices. The police now had 3 young men detained, yet they remained thoroughly convinced that Jacqueline was the true cold-blooded mastermind, pulling the strings behind the scenes. Friends of Lee provided the police with crucial background information. After Lee married Jacqueline, she had consistently refused to seek employment, instead treating Lee and the entire bar's revenue as her own personal, unending ATM. She frequently became heavily intoxicated at the bar, aggressively instigated fights with patrons, and caused disruptive, embarrassing scenes, eventually leading Lee to angrily prohibit her from entering the premises entirely. Lee had recently confided in several friends that he had reached his absolute limit and was actively planning to file for divorce, which would have meant immediately kicking Jacqueline out of their shared home and cutting off her financial lifeline. Jacqueline, facing the swift, imminent loss of her comfortable, financially effortless existence, was acutely aware of one non-negotiable fact. Lee Martin held a substantial $300,000 life insurance policy, and she was irrevocably designated as the sole beneficiary. Fueling her scheme with a lethal blend of avarice and sheer desperation, Jacqueline meticulously manufactured harrowing tales of domestic abuse. These calculated lies were directed solely at her unsuspecting brother, Robert, deliberately stoking his fiercely protective, yet volatile, anger. The final piece of the puzzle involved her handing him Lee's purloined debit card, complete with the corresponding PIN, 0124. This was not an act of theft for sustenance, but a direct instruction for Robert to extract the necessary capital from an ATM money destined specifically for the black market purchase of a murder weapon. Armed now with this mountain of damning evidence, proof not just of motive but of cold-blooded conspiracy, authorities made their move. In a final, humiliating display of consequence, Jacqueline was apprehended at her own husband's funeral, a stark, unforgivable disruption to the solemn ceremony. She was immediately transported for what would be the final, most intense and brutal interrogation of the case. State your name and age for the record. Jacqueline, 29. All right. We are sitting here right now because your brother executed Lee. You know that to be the truth. It is not some carefully guarded secret. Your brother is now under arrest for capital murder. He wouldn't do something like that. He absolutely did do it. Your brother Robert is the one who pulled the trigger and killed Lee. My little brother. Yes, your little brother. And you orchestrated the entire thing. He killed Lee because of the venomous garbage you pumped into his head. You worked tirelessly to convince everyone, including Robert, that every time you were kicked out for your behavior, every time you got blackout drunk, every time you indulged in cocaine, somehow, miraculously, it was Lee's fault. Every dollar you stole from him, every night you spent shacked up with another man, instead of being home with your husband and your children, you laid the blame squarely on the victim. He didn't deserve that. Oh, he deserved nothing but the truth, and he got a bullet instead. I'm telling you, he did do it. Don't waste my time with that stunned act. You were fully aware of what happened because you were communicating with Robert right before the fatal shots were fired. Do you even know where your husband took the bullets? Right here, in the ... Are you aware? They mentioned he was shot in the... Yes, he was shot right here. One shot here, another shot here. Your brother inflicted those wounds. Shot in the face. Your brother did that to him. Why are you suddenly crying? Stop the fake tears. You called your husband. You called him moments before to ascertain his exact movements to see when he was leaving the safety of the bar. You manipulated and planned this entire execution. No, yes, you did. Because you believed you were going to inherit everything. I wanted him to know if he wanted the air conditioner on. That is a ridiculous, transparent lie. You were on the phone with your brother. Your brother was positioned directly next to your house, strategically hiding near the side of the bar because you both knew that the surveillance cameras on that particular side were non-functional. The footage only covered the front entrance. It would not capture anything as Lee walked across the yard to the house. And you know what one of his friends said when they were interviewed? They said, "You should have seen how terrified Lee was." And the existing camera footage corroborates that. It shows how absolutely terrified he was in his final moments. And it is all because of you. Because of your corrosive greed. You are driven purely by avarice. I don't know. You are greedy. Utterly greedy. You are so greedy that you literally furnished your brother with a stolen PIN number so he could procure cash from the ATM machine. You stole Lee's bank card and handed it over to your own brother for him to use. So, let's stop lying. I need the unvarnished truth from you. Look at this. Here is photographic evidence of your brother utilizing the ATM card. And we have numerous other pictures from the other locations he visited. That is Robert right there. That is your brother using Lee's ATM card. There is the what did this man ever do to deserve this? He was innocent. And here is the pathetic individual you coerced into killing him. And you are the architect of his murder. You orchestrated the whole sinister plot. You used your own brother to kill your husband because you were fixated on collecting a massive insurance payout. You were barred from the bar. No, I wasn't. Yes, you were. You were explicitly banned from the premises. Everyone we spoke to confirmed that you were barred from the bar. Everyone told us exactly what a sloppy, unreliable drunk you are. That is precisely why you could no longer patronize the establishment. You were constantly stealing money out of his wallet. Kyle sat here just this past Saturday and gave a full account of how you stole $500 straight out of your husband's wallet one afternoon. No, you were a common thief. And you were a thief because you need to feed your habits that white powder up your nose. Yes, this is exactly what we are going to discuss now. I want to know why. I need to understand why your brother killed your husband. I want to know why you deliberately gave your husband's bank card to your brother to use so he could illegally withdraw nearly $1,000 of money that was not yours. I want to know the motive. I want to know why you were on the phone with him while he was lurking outside of the bar, practically next door to your house, waiting for the perfect moment to kill your husband. Tell me why. Tell me why you did this. Get it out. I want to know why. I want to be able to call Lee's father and explain to him why his daughter-in-law had his son murdered. Why she enlisted her own brother to shoot her husband multiple times right in front of the house where their children slept. I wouldn't. Tell me why. I'll tell you why. Because of the money. You are a thief. A worthless thief. You thought you were going to cash in on the life insurance, you greedy animal. And all you've done is sit here and scream accusations at me. I am angry, and I am angry because he is dead, and because you meticulously planned his death, and because your own brother carried out the execution. You were on the phone with him while he was concealing himself outside the bar. You were talking to him. You were coordinating with your brother while he waited outside to kill your husband. What was he asking you? Do not sit here and feed me more lies. Who was calling who out of fear? What exactly was he calling you for? He's going to hurt me. Who is going to hurt you? Who is him? Lee isn't going to hurt you. Robert is furious. Why was Robert calling you that morning? He wouldn't do that. He's already done it. He did it. We know that as a fact. He has already admitted to the crime. He has already confessed to shooting your husband. Well, no, because just the other day you warned Lee right out on the front porch that he was going to get his. The neighbor overheard your bitter argument. You and Lee had a huge, screaming fight on the porch, and you explicitly told Lee that his consequences were coming soon. God, that was like 3 weeks ago. No, this was just days ago. No, I remember that fight. This was just the other day. No, he came in so drunk. Okay, and then what happened? He hasn't drank. Okay, so, what was the specific catalyst that day? He hasn't had a drink in almost 2 weeks. That specific argument was huge. What did he do? We were arguing intensely. I was attempting to walk away, and he physically wouldn't allow me to leave. That's why the neighbors heard it. That's why I was stuck on the porch, because I was trying to. And you distinctly said, "You're going to get yours soon." No, and he did. Your brother systematically shot and killed him 8 times. Was the plan just for Rob to come over and merely rough him up? You talked about hurting him all the time. On that night specifically, Friday night, Transitioning into Saturday morning, was he just supposed to come over and give him a simple beating? Did he say, "Look sis, I'm just going to come over and teach him a lesson"? No, because if he said that, I would have stopped him. You knew exactly what was going to happen, because you called Leon his cell phone to confirm when he was leaving the bar, while Robert was hiding in wait. I called him to see if the temperature outside was pleasant enough to open the window, or if he wanted the air conditioning on. Then why did you lie directly to Detective Colby and claim you were asleep the entire time? Why the elaborate deception? 'Cause I was sleeping. You were not sleeping. Were wide awake because you were engaged in a rapid back-and-forth conversation with your brother from 2:07 in the morning until 2:20 in the morning. You communicated with your brother 6 separate times in that 13-minute window, and I just wanted him to walk around with a bruise on his face in front of his friend. And you specifically told Rob that, yeah, but it was sort of an offhand joke. Well, Robert took it far more seriously. He did not interpret that as a joke. He did not take it as a joke. I threw a chair at him. What, you threw a chair at Lee? How long ago was that incident? A couple of years ago, I guess. Now, let's talk about your current usage. How much cocaine do you use on a daily basis? I've been clean. For how long exactly? A week, 10 days. No. When was the last time you ingested cocaine? It was about the first Friday of this month. The first Friday of this current month. May. How large was the quantity of cocaine you consumed? A lot. Did you buy the drugs for them? No. You also do. You use heroin? No. Are you addicted to any prescription pills? I have pills. Do you use powder cocaine, or do you use crack cocaine? I don't know. It varies. Well, crack is distinct. It looks like a hard rock substance. No, I only use powder cocaine. Used to. Okay. When you were heavily using, how much would you typically consume in a single day? How much money? Like $100 worth. I didn't use every day. It was only when I went out. And did you ever go on a massive binge, where you consumed a large amount over a period of a couple of days? Like when you came into a sudden sum of cash, such as when you allegedly stole $500. No, I did not. You confided in people that you did exactly that. No. Yeah, you did, didn't you? He told people that you stole the $500 when you moved his wallet that day. Why didn't you just simply ask Lee for the money, instead of resorting to theft? I mean, you were his wife. Whenever he gives me cash like that, he only hands me maybe $30. Why? This past weekend, did you specifically want your brother to come over and harm Lee? I never wanted. Why this weekend? What specific event occurred this weekend that made you push Rob to come over and hurt Lee? I never wanted him hurt. That is entirely false. Jack. Well, I wanted him hurt sometimes. Okay. But that was only when I felt pain myself, and he was just speaking out of anger and saying stupid things. Despite the overwhelming intensity of the interrogation, Jacqueline Gardner steadfastly refused to provide the full, satisfying confession the detectives desperately sought. Nevertheless, the vast and intricate collection of physical and circumstantial evidence, spanning motive, financial crimes, and active conspiracy was deemed more than sufficient for prosecution. She was formally charged with first-degree murder, recognizing the profound severity of their complicity in the crime. Both accomplices, Brandon and Storm, opted to accept plea agreements offered by the prosecution. In exchange for their comprehensive testimony against Jacqueline and Robert, they received identical sentences, 20 years, with all but 7 years suspended. This required them to serve a mandatory minimum of 7 years confined within state prison facilities. While confined and awaiting his own trial, Robert Gardner underwent a profound and consequential change of heart. In a shocking act of familial betrayal, he agreed to turn state's evidence and testify against his own sister, Jacqueline, in exchange for a negotiated 60-year sentence. Robert's testimony proved devastating. He unequivocally confirmed that Jacqueline had been the definitive mastermind and calculated orchestrator of the entire execution plot. He admitted that she had fabricated every single claim of abuse used to manipulate his emotions and confirmed that she had provided him with Lee's stolen debit card and the PIN, specifically for the purpose of withdrawing the funds, essential for acquiring the murder weapon. Faced with the insurmountable mountain of physical evidence and the crushing, unequivocal testimony of her own brother, Jacqueline finally conceded defeat. Her defiance broken, she accepted a negotiated plea deal herself. For her central role in orchestrating the cold-blooded murder of her husband, she received a 60-year prison sentence. What are your critical thoughts on the culmination of this tragic case? considering she manipulated her own brother into committing murder strictly for financial enrichment? Do you believe Jacqueline should have received a harsher sentence? Or was the 60-year term an appropriate measure of justice? We invite you to share your perspectives in the comments section below. In the end, this case reminds us that tragedy rarely appears without warning. It grows quietly, in the shadows of resentment, dishonesty, and choices we convince ourselves we can control. What happened to Lee Martin is more than a crime. It is a consequence of wounds left unattended, of lies allowed to spread, and of people who believed they could shape fate without paying its price. When trust shatters inside a home, the impact can ripple far beyond four walls. It affects children, families, and entire communities. And it forces us to confront a difficult truth. Unchecked emotions and reckless decisions can destroy lives long before anyone realizes the danger. If stories like this help you reflect, if they remind you to value honesty, responsibility, and compassion, then stay with us. True Crime Vault exists not only to recount real cases, but to explore the human lessons beneath them, lessons that may protect us from repeating the same silent mistakes. Thank you for watching. If you found meaning in this story, please subscribe, like, and share the channel. And explore our other videos. Each one reveals another hidden corner of real-world crime, and another reminder of how fragile the line is between peace and disaster.